ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Banjul, 7 o'clock in Porto Novo and Abuja. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Coming up in the news. UN warns worsening insecurity threatens democratic gains in West Africa and the Sahel. Nigerian President Tinubu presents a 2026 budget of nearly $39 billion to National Assembly.
We will spend with purpose, manage debt with discipline, and pursue broad-based sustainable growth.
Côte d'Ivoire's opposition PDCI presents 163 candidates for the December 27 parliamentary elections. And Benin issues several international arrest warrants and extradition requests for alleged coup plotters.
This is a struggle to ensure that Ivorians can make a choice. This is already a victory, and the people will respond in favor of the PDCI candidates.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this evening, and my name is Hankule Janko. We'll begin with some developing news, diplomatic news, because the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, is urging stronger regional and international action as security, political and humanitarian challenges deepen across the region. A report presented to the UN Security Council warns that rising insecurity, political tensions and growing humanitarian needs are putting hard-won democratic gains at risk in West Africa and the Sahel. Augustine Coley has the rest of the details in this report.
The Deputy Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Barry Freeman, has warned that the region remains fragile despite some signs of resilience. Briefing the UN Security Council, she said worsening security, political tensions and humanitarian needs continue to threaten hard-won democratic gains. Presenting the Secretary General's latest report on the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, UNOAS, Freeman cautioned that governance reforms seen as exclusionary are eroding public trust and fueling discontent. She called for inclusive political processes and stronger engagement with civil society, youth and women. The UN official also raised concerns over rising political tensions in Guinea-Bissau, urging restraint, inclusive dialogue and respect for constitutional order, while encouraging continued support for ECOWAS efforts to protect democracy in the region. On the security front, she described the Sahel as the global epicenter of violent extremism, warning that terrorist groups are expanding towards coastal states and increasingly linking up with organized crime. Barry Freeman noted that persistent insecurity is worsening the humanitarian situation, with millions displaced and facing food insecurity. Only 25% of the UN's humanitarian appeal for the Central Sahel has been funded, while climate shocks, including floods, continue to intensify suffering. The Deputy UN Special Representative reaffirmed UNOA's commitment to working with ECOWAS and the African Union, supporting regional counter-terrorism efforts and promoting dialogue, peace and stability across West Africa and the Sahel.
Augustine Coley with that report. Let's head to Côte d'Ivoire as campaigning for the December 27 legislative elections officially began at midnight. The ruling party rally of the Offices for Democracy and Peace, the RHDP, the main opposition Democratic Party of Côte d'Ivoire, the PDCI, and several independent candidates are all contesting the 255 seats in the National Assembly. Despite sitting out last October's presidential election, the PDCI believes it still stands a strong chance of winning a parliamentary majority. And this report, Imo Edit, analyzes the real prospects of Côte d'Ivoire's oldest political party in this legislative race.
Out of the 2,740 candidates contesting Côte d'Ivoire's legislative elections, the Democratic Party of Côte d'Ivoire, the PDCI, has presented 163 candidates across nearly all constituencies nationwide. Over the 8-day campaign period, the party says it is relying on a strong grassroots strategy to mobilize voters, with candidates engaging directly with communities and selling the party's political program at the local level. Each aspirant is expected to secure support within their respective constituencies. Anisette Douhu, a member of the PDCI's political bureau, explains the party's strategy.
This is a struggle to ensure that Ivorians can make a choice that has been stifled by the presidential election, and that this choice is free, and the people will respond in favor of the PDCI candidates, who are high-quality candidates. The first strategy is mobilization. We have begun raising awareness among our activists and dispelling misinformation. Then, we must truly place the real issues at the heart of the debate, issues that are not being discussed with the people, and we are doing this. The final phase is to cultivate a culture of victory. Every Ivorian must now fulfill their civic duty.
Despite the PDCI's absence from last October's presidential election, political observers say the party remains a strong force and could still secure parliamentary seats, particularly in its traditional strongholds. Ivorian political analyst Soro Jabiga shares his assessment.
It's true that the PDCI isn't sufficiently representative across the entire country for this election, but in the various areas where the PDCI already holds seats, it must be said that this is already a victory for the incumbent members of parliament, and in the other seats they are still trying to win, there is still a chance they could achieve victories because partnerships are currently being signed. In several localities, it seems there is a good chance they can win, gain new seats, and maintain what they already have.
While the PDCI has fielded 163 candidates, the ruling RHDP is contesting the elections with 225 candidates. The opposition also faces growing competition from independent candidates who have made notable gains since the last legislative polls.
A report by our correspondent in Abidjan, Marcel Aristemblay, and voiced by Imo Edet. President Bola Tinubu has presented a budget proposal of nearly $39 billion for the 2026 fiscal year to a joint session of the National Assembly in Abuja. The 2026 budget theme, the budget of consolidation, renewed resilience and shared prosperities, prioritizes sectors such as security and defense, education, health, and social welfare. Tinubu's presentation, which came at a time of heightened insecurity in part of the country with mass abductions and other crimes making headlines, outlines the government's plan to address the challenge. He said some of the measures in place to combat insecurity include intelligence-driven policing and joint operations, border security, community-based peace building and conflict prevention initiatives, among others. President Tinubu, presenting the 2026 financial instrument before the joint session of the National Assembly, expressed confidence in its transformative agenda.
It reflects our determination to lock in macroeconomic stability, deepen competitiveness, and ensure that growth translates into decent jobs, rising incomes, and a better quality of life across every corner of Nigeria and for every Nigerian. We will spend with purpose, manage debt with discipline, and pursue broad-based sustainable growth. The key aggregates are as follows. Expected total revenue is 34.33 trillion naira. Projected total expenditure is 58.18 trillion naira, including 15.52 trillion naira for debt servicing. Key sectorial provisions include defense, security. Defense and security will take 5.41 trillion naira. Infrastructure will follow with 3.56 trillion naira. Education will follow with 3.52 trillion naira. Health and social services will be 2.48 trillion naira. This budget is therefore designed to provide a single coherent program of national renewal, a national security and peace building.
President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria at the 2026 budget at the National Assembly on Friday.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Benin, 2 weeks after an attempted military coup, President Patrice Talon on Thursday held a press conference to address the nation on key developments. During the press briefing, President Talon spoke on the failed coup attempt, the new constitution adopted last November and officially promulgated on Wednesday. The Beninese leader also revealed the government's plans to extradition those implicated in the plot. He confirmed that arrest warrants have been issued for the suspected coup plotters, but await a favorable response from the neighboring countries where the mutineers are reportedly seeking refuge. Here is President Patrice Talon.
We have issued arrest warrants against them. We have asked the countries concerned to cooperate and hand them over to us. I hope they will cooperate and extradite these thugs, because they must be held accountable. But I must say that it was the lesser evil for them to flee rather than for us to pursue them and cause many casualties in Toubé. Is it wrong to propose the creation of a council of elders to call on everyone to act with reason so that we can live more harmoniously and ensure that public political action is effective rather than constantly becoming a source of conflict and war? I believe it would be good for no one to shy away from this. All those who have served this country and who possess a certain stature, experience and recognition should accept, while they still have the energy, to be part of such a council of elders. As for me, I will not step aside. I hope no one else will either.
Benin's President Patrice Talon speaking there. Crossing over to the Gambia, the recent statement by the Economic Community of West African States echoes to ex-President Yahya Jammeh has provoked mixed views. In the statement, the regional bloc warned Jammeh to desist from acts, including the release of audio messages that could heighten tension in the country. The warning issued during the 68th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government comes as the Gambia enters an election year. Reacting to this development, Mahdi Jabat, Executive Director of the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice, perceives that the regional bloc spoke far too late.
This is not the first time Jammeh has been sending audios to the Gambia. So I suppose Gambia must have raised this issue at the ECOWAS level, and ECOWAS felt because it needs to preserve peace in the Gambia, considered those statements as inimical to peace in the Gambia, and therefore issued this warning. All right, but also it must be recognized that Jammeh is a citizen, and he has the right to freedom of expression, to an opinion, and to express himself. Now, for me, my issue is what is ECOWAS doing to ensure that Jammeh faces accountability. So that is what concerns me, because I recall that in 2017, ECOWAS, AU, and UN made a declaration among themselves to say how to collaborate, support the Gambia government and our situation at the time, in which they facilitated the departure of Jammeh out of the Gambia, but also emphasizing that declaration Jammeh's rights as an individual, as an ex-president, for the government not to subject him to any illegal, unfair treatment, his family, his supporters, and so on. But that declaration did not speak about what duties or responsibilities Jammeh would have as a former president who is going out on exile. So in the circumstances, if what is happening, then it raises the question on what basis would ECOWAS raise this concern.
Mahdi Jabati is the Executive Director of the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice. Still in the Gambia, the judiciary has validated a new communication strategy aimed at improving public engagement and restoring confidence in the justice system. The strategy was presented at a validation meeting attended by representatives from the judiciary, government institutions, and development partners. WDR Sangmendi reports.
Officials say the plan aims to modernize how the courts communicate with citizens, with an emphasis on border outreach, improved access to information, and stronger accountability across justice sector. Participants at the meeting reviewed the draft strategy and put forward recommendations ahead of its formal adoption. Aissatou Jalosi, a representative of the Gambia's judiciary who spoke on behalf of the Chief Justice, described the strategy as a vital tool for strengthening transparency and public confidence in the justice system.
By validating this strategy, therefore, we take a significant step towards creating an awareness and dialogue and undertaking that we undertake to flourish. As we move forward, we assure all of you that we will work together to implement this strategy, ensuring that we continue to build a judiciary that stands a pillar of transparency and justice for all.
The draft strategy was achieved with support from the European Union and the UNDP. Resident representative of UNDP in Banjul, Seni Sise, said public trust in justice goes beyond laws and institutions to clear and consistent communication with citizens.
Many users of the justice system, particularly those unfamiliar with the legal processes, continue to struggle with navigating court structures, understanding their rights, or accessing timely and reliable information.
The judiciary says the communication strategy will be central to promoting openness and accountability as efforts continue to build a more responsive and credible justice system in the Gambia. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, and around the world on WADR.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. The UN warns worsening insecurity threatens democratic gains in West Africa and the Sahel. Nigerian President Tinubu presents a 2026 budget of nearly $39 billion to National Assembly. Côte d'Ivoire's opposition PDCI presents 163 candidates for the December 27 parliamentary elections. And Benin issues several international arrest warrants and extradition requests for alleged coup plotters. Still ahead in the news, we have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Guinea, 16 years after the tragedy of September 28, 2009, the justice system continues its quest for truth. The second phase of the trial over the stadium massacre began on Thursday in Conakry, set against a tense backdrop of legal and political stakes, with some defendants present and others still at large, and key revelations anticipated. This next stage is expected to play a crucial role in determining accountability in the case. Christopher Atichu has more in the following report.
At the opening of the first hearing on Thursday, the defendants present in the dock were Keno Bienvenu Lamar, Georges Olemu, Thomas Tuaro, and Jean-Louis Pogomu. The three other accused, Keno Kono Sangari, Jacques Maome, and Blaise Pogomu, were absent and remain at large. At the start of the proceeding, the court formally read out the charges against all defendants. They are facing serious allegations, including abuse of authority, murder, rape, abduction, and act of torture. Additional charges include obstruction of victim assistance and complicity in these crimes. Keno Bienvenu Lamar was the first to speak. He directly implicated the former transitional president, General Seguba Konate, who was Minister of Defense at the time of the September 28, 2009 massacre. According to Lamar, the full truth about the massacre cannot emerge without General Konate's testimony. He stressed the need for a direct confrontation, arguing that the former defense minister's account is crucial to clarify the military chain of command and the decisions made during the event of that day. The hearing was then adjourned and is scheduled to resume for the continuation of the trial.
Christopher Atichu with that report by WDR's Conakry correspondent Cherno Alpha Ibrahim Balde. In Ghana, security has been tightened in Nalerigu and surrounding communities in the northeast region following the imposition of a dusk-to-dawn curfew. Police have deployed reinforcement teams and armored vehicles to contain rising tensions after two houses were set ablaze. The Inspector General of Police said the decision follows threats from youths in the area to carry out further attacks on residents, developments that heightened fear and insecurity. From Accra, WD has 90 detailed reports.
In a press release dated December 18, 2025 and issued from the Regional Police Headquarters in Nalarugu, the head of Public Affairs Unit of the Northeast Regional Police Command, Deputy Superintendent of Police Robert Anabik Anmain, said the deployment is aimed at restoring calm, protecting lives and property, and reinforcing security operations in affected communities. According to the police, the reinforcement teams will also intensify patrols along major highways to ensure the safety of commuters traveling through the region. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Interior has announced the imposition of a curfew on Nalarugu and its environs on the advice of the National Security Council. The curfew, which took effect from Thursday, December 18, 2025, will run daily from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. in accordance with an executive instrument. As part of the security measures, the ministry has placed a ban on the possession of arms, ammunition, and offensive weapons within the affected areas. Anyone found in possession of such items will be arrested and prosecuted. Additional restrictions include a ban on the movement of motorbikes, the wearing of smokes, the sale of fuel in containers, and all forms of unlawful assembly. The police command says investigations into the arson attacks are ongoing and has assured the public that all individuals involved will be arrested and brought before the law. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview this evening takes us to the Gambia, where a recent statement by the Economic Community of West African States to ex-President Yahya Jammeh has provoked mixed reviews. In the statement, the regional bloc warned Jammeh to desist from acts including the release of audio messages that could heighten tension in the country. The warning issued during the 6th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government comes as the Gambia enters an election period in 2026. Speaking with WDR, Mahdi Jabati, Executive Director of the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice, believes the regional bloc spoke far too late.
This is not the first time Jammeh has been sending orders to the Gambia. And because their supporters here have been energizing his supporters, and but more importantly, has been causing discomfort, particularly when he said he was coming in November. So I suppose Gambia must have raised this issue at the ECOWAS level, and ECOWAS felt because, it needs to preserve peace in the Gambia, considered those statements as inimical to peace in the Gambia, and therefore issued this warning. In one sense, it would seem to make sense that Jammeh and anyone actually is urged to not undermine the peace and stability of the Gambia or any other country in West Africa. All right, but also it must be recognized that Jammeh is a citizen. Now, for me, my issue is what is ECOWAS doing to ensure that Jammeh faces accountability? So that is what concerns me. Because I recall that in 2017, ECOWAS, AU, and UN made a declaration among themselves to say how to collaborate and support the Gambia government and the situation at the time in which they facilitated the departure of Jammeh out of the Gambia, but also emphasizing that declaration Jammeh's rights, as an individual, as an ex-president. Not for the government not to, subject him to any illegal, unfair treatment, his family, his supporters, and so on. So in the circumstances, if what is happening, then it raises the question: on what basis would ECOWAS raise this concern?
At this point, would you say that perhaps there is a good opening or a window now that Jammeh could be extradited and made to face the law in the Gambia?
Well, this statement did not seem to indicate that. It merely said, Jammeh to stop, making those statements. Even if it said that it may face consequences, it did not specify. But certainly ECOWAS has supported the idea of a special court or tribunal in the Gambia. But as I said, ECOWAS itself since 2017 as an organization has not taken any practical steps to make sure Jammeh particularly, is brought to justice. That is in terms of extraditing Jammeh other than expressing support for the transitional justice program or process in the Gambia, including the setting up of a special tribunal. So in a broader sense, would ECOWAS be amenable to making efforts to, get Jammeh extradited? That would have to be seen. But, at the moment, we hope Jammeh will heed what ECOWAS advice and stay away or keep silent. We'll have to see what happens.
And so, on the part of the serving president, Adama Barrow, do you think ECOWAS's statement now would perhaps support whatever agenda he has by use of his executive power to override any decision that could perhaps also amount to a show of force either against Jammeh, who's on exile, or his supporters in the country as the Gambia enters election cycle?
Well, I wouldn't advise that he uses any powers or measures that would be against the law, against the rights of Jammeh or his supporters. But in any case, the statement from ECOWAS sort of emboldens him and his government, having a powerful ally that is ECOWAS speaking that manner. That would definitely embolden him, and that puts pressure on Jammeh and his supporters, knowing that, yes, there is a powerful outfit over there that is, urging him to keep silent or not to undermine peace, But in terms of Barrow, I'd rather say to expedite the process of bringing Jammeh to justice, but not to, do anything that would be a violation of Jammeh's rights.
Madi Jabate is the Executive Director of the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice. Well, in sports, with just 2 days to the opening kickoff of the CAF Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025, teams are arriving as anticipation builds across the host nation. Comoros, who faces Morocco in Sunday's opener, among the early arrivals alongside Mali, Angola, Egypt, Benin and Zimbabwe. Cameroon are already in training camp in Casablanca, while more teams, including Nigeria, South Africa, DR Congo and Zambia, are expected to arrive today, Friday. Elsewhere, CAF has confirmed a total prize pool of $32 million for the tournament. The champions will take home $7 million with all 24 participating nations guaranteed financial rewards. CAF says the prize structure is aimed at boosting competitiveness and professionalism as Africa's biggest football show prepares to kick off in Morocco. Meanwhile, CAF has confirmed that AFCON champions will receive 50 gold medals, runners-up 50 silver, and third-place teams 50 bronze, while fourth place will be awarded certificates. And Cote d'Ivoire are awaiting the final decision on striker Sebastian Haller, whose fitness remains uncertain ahead of AFCON 2025 with Evan Gussan on standby. Of course, Sebastian Haller was the goal scorer in the final between Cote d'Ivoire and the Super Eagles of Nigeria in the last edition. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa, the Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Mustafa Sek for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms X, on Instagram and Facebook at WADR English. We stream live at WADR.org. Coming up next is WADR Security Program in the Sahel with Abdullahi Hassan. I am Sankule Janko. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.